Hi class, this is course 3, lesson 33, subtracting integers. Okay, so this box here you do not need to write. This is information that you already have in your notes from lesson 31. But I think it's helpful to review this information because this is how we add integers, and now we're going to talk about subtracting. So remember that when you add integers with different signs, you subtract the absolute values of the add-ins, and you take the sign of the add-in with the greater absolute value. So you're always finding the absolute value and then subtracting if they're different, or you find the absolute value and you add if they're the same sign. And then you keep the sign if it has the greater absolute value or the sign of the add-ins if they're the same sign. Okay? Now when you subtract, and so this is all you really need to put in your notes right here, to subtract integers. One step, instead of subtracting a number, add its opposite. So we are going to work on changing subtraction problems into addition problems so that we can use these rules up here. So we're going to go over 4 examples on the next page, but what we're talking about is what you already know. Okay, so think about this, 12 minus 3. You know that that problem equals 9. 12 minus 3 equals 9. Well, what if we take 12 minus 3 and instead of subtracting, let's add the opposite. So this problem then becomes 12 plus the opposite of 3. So this problem is 12 plus a negative 3, and so we are adding different signs. So you subtract the absolute values, which is what you did here. Absolute value of 12 is 12, and the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So you subtract them, and then you keep the sign of the add-in with the greater absolute value, which is 12. Okay, so this problem here is still 9, which it should be. We didn't do anything different. We still took 12 and subtracted 3, but we can also add the opposite. Okay, much like dividing is really multiplying by the reciprocal, we can add the opposite. Okay, so let's do 4 sample problems where we're adding the opposite. Okay, so you need, this is algebraic addition here. We're going to change from subtraction to addition. So this problem really becomes negative 15 plus the opposite of negative 3 would be a positive 3. Okay, and if it helps you to see the numbers in the parentheses, go ahead and leave them there. Now these have opposite signs, so we need to use the absolute value of them. And that's going to be 15 and 3, and since they were opposite signs and we were adding, we need to subtract them, and we'll get 12. What was the sign of the greater absolute value? It was negative, so the answer here is negative 12. And I'm going to go over to the right problem. Now we have negative 15 minus a positive 3, and we need to change to an addition problem, add the opposite. So we're going to take negative 15 and add to it the opposite of positive 3, which would be negative 3. Now we are adding 2 integers. They have the same signs. We're going to again take the absolute value, it's negative, and negative 3. The absolute value would be 15 and 3, and we add them because they are the same sign, not in the original problem. Remember, we're adding the opposite. So now this is 15 plus 3, which is 18. And then they were the same sign, so you go back and you figure out what sign they were. They were both negative, so we end up with negative 18. Another problem, negative 3 minus a negative 15. So we're still going to have the same negative 3. We're going to change the subtraction to addition, and we're going to change that term to the opposite. So we're going to add the opposite of negative 15, which would be positive 15. Again, we are adding, and they are opposite signs, so find your absolute value. 3 and 15. Opposite signs you subtract, so we'd have 15 minus 3 would give us 12. And the sign of the larger absolute value, the 15, was positive, so our answer is positive 12. Last example, negative 3 minus a positive 15. Negative 3, add the opposite, and let's see, we are adding the same sign, so we again find the absolute value. 3 and 15, and we have to add those together since they were the same sign, giving us 18. And what sign were they? They were negative. Okay, this is very an easy place to make mistakes. Okay, it's also difficult to wrap your head around until you get it, and then you go, oh, I understand now, and I don't have to really work really hard at it. It's okay to ask questions, definitely, if you are struggling with this or you have some clarifying questions. So please let me know if you do. Otherwise, I'll see you in class.